Ohio State has seen 3 running backs from this current roster, or this season's roster, decide that they're going to leave going into 2024. Mayan Williams declared for the NFL draft. Chip Trayanum and Evan Pryor both went in the transfer portal. That leaves Ohio State kind of thin for the Cotton Bowl, very thin for the Cotton Bowl, unless TreVeyon Henderson is sticking around. And there are reasons to think that that might be something that is in play right now, that he's considering sticking around and going for another full season, another full healthy season. We saw what he did down the stretch this year, became one of the best running backs in the country when he came back from his midseason injury. Andrew, do you think TreVeyon Henderson should seriously consider coming back to Ohio State?
I think he could consider it. I would tell him the same thing I would tell Marv, which is to go to the NFL. I understand the pull to stay, and it's a little bit different for TreVeyon because when we talk about Marv, we're talking about a player who is going to be third overall, maybe. Like, what's his floor? Fourth? Like, when we talk about TreVeyon, his floor can kind of fluctuate here, and you would have to see, all right, well, maybe, what if he doesn't go to late third round? Like, does that make you want to come back? So, like, I understand that, but TreVeyon was hurt in 2022, and he was hurt in 2023. And you don't want to come back for another year and get hurt again. Because if you get hurt again, that is something that NFL teams are going to notice. And that is something that you're not going to be able to put on film. You're not going to be in the NFL kind of getting paid. And you're not going to be getting the benefits that come with being in the NFL. And you're just going to be in college if you're hurt. And I look at him and I see a player who has done a lot on film to prove to NFL teams what he can do. We saw what he can do when he comes back healthy, he can change this offense. So I get it, but the way that the running back position is kind of worn down in the NFL, the way that NFL teams treat running backs, the way that just the entirety of his future is kind of being handled by the NFL, I would tell him you got to get there as quickly as possible. And I understand the injury concerns, and I understand wanting to put a full season on film, but you also have to look at the negative, and what if he doesn't do that? And I think that the risk is greater than the reward.
So for TreVeyon, the injury thing is kind of a two-sided coin because, yes, he has gotten hurt. They haven't been like soft tissue things. They've been, broken bone in his foot and some ligament issues. He had an upper body injury thing today. It doesn't really have anything to do with like being able to run the ball and concussion things as a freshman at the end of the season. So it isn't like he has recurring. Frankly, it's not like a Jackson Smith and Jigba thing as much as last year. But the other side of the coin is that means he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. Or the other way, he does still have a lot of tread on tires. He hasn't worn his tread away, whereas some guys come into the NFL having already run 350, 400 times a year in college for 3 years, and then now they're getting into the NFL. So I don't know how I feel about that. I actually think both sides have some merit. But Steven, I know that you've been sort of trying to reach out and get a grasp of what TreVeyon's thinking, and it sounds like it legitimately is kind of up in the air what could happen for him. Do you think it is a reasonable thing for him to be thinking, regardless of the injury risk, regardless of the immediate money, and trying to get to a second contract, which is tough in the NFL for a running back, and that second contract isn't as lucrative as it is at other positions, which is a big topic of conversation right now, should he come back?
I think the thing that this situation, Marvin's situation, CJ Stroud's situation has taught me, just because it seems like an easy decision whether to stay or go doesn't mean it is an actual easy decision to do it. Sometimes it's just things that are like intangible things that you're thinking about when you make decisions like this, especially for this group of third-year guys who didn't accomplish any of the team stuff that they were supposed to accomplish. And with TreVeyon, Andrew, you're not wrong. The running back position has been devalued everywhere but in fantasy football at this point. So maybe it is best to – and TreVeyon used to talk about that when he was a recruit, how getting to that second contract as quickly as possible. So you hear that, you remember that as a high school kid, you go ding, 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 he's out of here, right? But then you also remember he hasn't played a full football season since 2019 because 2020 he's from Virginia. They didn't play football. He missed some time, I think, in 2021, or he was dealing with some stuff. I can't remember.
He played one game where he only went out at the very beginning, I think, or he was warming up and got hurt. I can't remember. There was one game where he didn't play much, but he played that full season.
Yeah, but even then, he wasn't like the full-time lead guy until the Tulsa game happened. And then we know what 2022 was and we know what 2023 was. So to your point of the tread on the tires, it's not quite the same. And Andrew, you make this point a lot, how 21 and running back age is probably 45, but his 21 might actually just be 21 because of those situations. So this is not an easy decision, and it's forcing me to look at some things differently. I think there's benefits to both. I think he is an elite level athlete who could use the draft process to raise his stock significantly. I was told over the summer that that he was running like a 4.3 and flirting with 22 miles per hour is where he would max out in. And teams are going to fall in love with those types of running backs. But also, even if it's a risk, in a year where you're going to have a brand new starting quarterback again and a lot of new things on the offense, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is thinking, hey, he's got a best chance to be a Heisman Trophy, why not try to maximize that and have the J.K. Dobbins year that you probably were on your way to having this year had you not gotten hurt? So this one isn't as clear-cut as maybe some of the other ones. In fact, I think only one guy of these third-year guys has a clear-cut decision. Everybody else, it's reasons to stay, reasons to go.
Well, even that guy, if you're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., says he feels some pull here. And I asked Marvin Harrison Jr., how much does NIL and being able to make money here at Ohio State factor into the decision you have to make for the 1 year? And he said it doesn't. I don't think TreVeyon Henderson would say the same thing, even though he probably has some of the same emotional pulls that Marvin Harrison Jr. would have. And he even actually can prove himself more with another year. Marvin Harrison Jr. is like a finished product as far as like what people think of him and expect from the NFL. So that's the thing that kind of is hanging out there for me. If there is an apparatus here at Ohio State through local things, through national things that he can get connected to, if there's enough to where he could be compensated at near the level that he would be compensated as a rookie in the NFL, or maybe even more, depending on where he would slide to, because, again, running backs, not heavily valued. It's easy for those guys to slide down. You mentioned J.K. Dobbins. He was like a second-round guy. Like, those guys can slide pretty quickly. I think it's probably worth considering because I think there's a lot of guys in this 2021 class who we thought this was going to be the surge to the end of something for them. And for various reasons, for a lot of them, it just didn't quite come together. And for them to come back next year and still be the nucleus of something here is probably a big pull. If that's whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. I'm sure TreVeyon Henderson's getting a lot of professional advice that it, as Andrew said, it would make a lot of sense to get your NFL career started and try to progress in that endeavor. But I think for him, because of it's specifically the running back situation and how tenuous that is in the NFL, I think it might be worth coming back if you can get taken care of financially, and that does seem to be on the table just in general for all players now. And it's the kind of player that I think Ohio State and its apparatus would work hard to figure something out for and entice him to stick around for another year. We'll talk about that more on Buckeye Talk until the decision comes in, and when it does, 614-350-3315. Text that number, sends you back a link. You can sign up to get our text from cleveland.com. Breaking news, analysis, commentary, everything else, all season long on the Buckeyes.